From an early age, you were trained to believe that success has a shape, a scent, and a color. An expensive car, a sculpted body, a career everyone envies. They told you all you had to do was follow that script to be happy, but no one warned you that somewhere along the way, you might lose yourself. Isn't it strange how the more people win, the more anxious and empty they seem to become? What was supposed to be the finish line turned into a prison disguised as a trophy. And so the question arises. One, most people are too afraid to ask, is that version of success truly yours, or just another well-wrapped trap? Have you noticed how everyone's running, but no one knows where to? The relentless chase for status, approval, and recognition has become the silent religion of our time. But this cult of performance comes at a steep cost: mental health, genuine relationships, inner peace. That's where Stoicism steps in, like a key that turns from within. It doesn't deny the value of achievement, but it asks, what are you sacrificing for it? Because in the end, the version of success you were sold may cost you exactly what was meant to fulfill you. This video is for those who are tired of pushing themselves and don't even know why, for those who always feel almost there, but never at home. You're going to understand why the ego loves chasing unreachable goals, how to overcome the emotional procrastination this creates, and how Stoicism can help you reclaim a life that is balanced, coherent, and deeply joyful, even if it looks too simple for modern standards. Because what's simple is often what heals the most. Get ready to hear some truths no one else may have had the courage to say. We're going to expose the invisible game of success that keeps you trapped, show you where the exit is, and more importantly, how you can take back control of your own journey. This isn't about quitting everything and living in the woods, and it's about living in a way that makes sense without needing anyone's approval. And if you stay until the end, you may realize that real success was never that far away. You were just looking in the wrong direction. If this message is already resonating with you, go ahead and hit the like button. It really helps the algorithm share this video with others who need to hear it. And if you're new here, make sure to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss what's coming next. Around here, we talk about Stoicism, balanced living, real success, and how to overcome procrastination with purpose. No quick fixes, just clarity, presence, and practical transformation. So tap that subscribe button and turn on the notifications, because this journey isn't ending here, it's just getting started. From a young age, many of us are taught that success has a shape, an address, and the scent of money, that it lives in the top floors of high-rise buildings, drives cars that growl down the avenue, and wears a watch worth more than a year of minimum wage. But no one tells you what happens when you finally reach that promised success. The emptiness stays, the anxiety doesn't go away, and happiness seems to have lost its way. This is where Stoicism gives us a wake-up call. When you chase only what shines on the outside, you forget to nourish what holds you up on the inside. This endless chase for external success feeds the ego. It whispers that you have to be first, the most admired, the most envied. But the ego doesn't care about arriving, it just wants to run. Because as long as you're running, it feels alive. And you? Exhausted. The Stoic, on the other hand, looks inward and asks, does this bring me peace? Does this move me toward a balanced life? If the answer is no, he changes direction, even if no one claps. After all, for the wise, success isn't what the world sees. It's what you feel when your head hits the pillow at night. Let's be honest. How many people do you know who made it and are actually at peace? Often, the higher someone climbs on society's ladder of success, the more anxious and lonely life becomes. Here's a real question. How many hours have you invested in your mind, your health, your relationships, with the same effort you put into making money? A balanced life demands that kind of investment. Reading Marcus Aurelius is just as important as studying finance. Meditating, walking through the park, having real conversations with the people you love. All of that is success too. Seneca once said, "As we waste our days craving what we don't have, we forget to enjoy what we already do." In other words, the obsession with more blinds us to the value of now. How many parents miss their child's entire childhood trying to pay for the perfect school? How many mothers sacrifice their own health to sustain a lifestyle that never truly satisfies? The success they sold you is an endless treadmill. Stoicism invites you to step off, to redefine what it means to win, to find happiness in silence, in inner progress, in those invisible victories no one sees, but that change everything. And that's when a new kind of race begins. One without an audience, without a trophy, but full of lightness. A life where success is measured by the peace you live with, not the size of your paycheck. A race where every step brings you closer to who you truly are, and oddly enough, it's when you stop chasing that the right things start to find you. But of course, your ego won't like that. It prefers noise. And that, my friend, is where the real battle begins, between what the ego shouts and what your soul quietly whispers. There's something curious about the ego. It loves the spotlight, but it fears silence. Because in silence, there's no audience, no likes, no way to feed on other people's approval. The ego measures worth by visibility. If no one saw it, it doesn't count. But Stoicism flips that logic on its head. It teaches that true strength is invisible, that a man who masters himself in silence is more powerful than one who controls others with loud words. While the ego craves the stage, the Stoic seeks depth. The social status the ego craves is like a house of cards, pretty from a distance, fragile underneath. One slip-up, one comment, one forgotten moment, and the whole thing crumbles. That's why people who live for appearances are always tired, always alert to who's watching, trapped by expectations, slaves to a version of success that doesn't hold up. The Stoic man, on the other hand, builds his life on solid ground. Integrity, virtue, consistency. He'd rather live quietly in peace than loudly in fear of being exposed. Want a real-world example? Think of a professional who gives their best, even when no one's watching. They don't need to post every achievement or prove their worth. Their clear conscience is reward enough. That kind of behavior is rare these days, but deeply necessary, and it's not just about work. Think about relationships too. When was the last time you did something good for someone and told no one about it? That's Stoic practice. That's beating the procrastination of doing good, the kind that stops us when there's no applause involved. Epictetus once wrote, "Don't try to be admired, strive to be worthy of admiration." And that little difference changes everything. Because while the ego wants everyone to see what you're doing, Stoicism teaches you to become the kind of person who would do the right thing even with no witnesses. And let's be honest, who's more trustworthy? The one who loudly claims to be just, or the one who quietly acts with justice? Peace doesn't live on a podium. It lives in the quiet actions of someone who knows their purpose and doesn't need a crowd to feel real. And when you learn to embrace that silence, something powerful happens. You begin to hear yourself. And truly listening to yourself is a crucial step toward a balanced life. But be warned, the ego will kick and scream. It'll try to convince you that you're disappearing, that you need to show up more. And that's when another battle begins. Between the value you build within and the recognition the world demands from the outside. The ego has a subtle and dangerous trick. It always makes peace seem just one achievement away. Once I finish this course, once I buy that, once I move to a new city. And just like that, life becomes an endless wait. The promise of almost there feels harmless, but it's a sophisticated trap. Because when you finally reach the goal, the ego moves the finish line, and off you go again running. And once again, no happiness. Stoicism looks at this and says, stop postponing your peace. It's not waiting at the end of the road. It's in the way you walk right now. This constant illusion keeps you trapped in a kind of anxiety disguised as ambition. And look, there's nothing wrong with dreaming big. But when you tie your happiness to a future achievement, you're telling yourself you're not enough yet, that you need to be more before you can rest, breathe, or feel joy. The Stoic breaks that cycle by flipping the script. They focus on the process, not the outcome. They know that beating procrastination starts by doing what's in front of you with care, without needing a spotlight or a gold medal at the end. Let's get practical. How many times have you delayed a healthy habit saying, "Next week I'll start"? Or avoided that one project because now's not the right time? The truth is, the right time is a myth created by the ego. A Stoic chooses to act with excellence today, even if it's something small. Reading 2 pages of a good book, washing the dishes with presence, apologizing without excuses. These simple acts, done with intention, create a kind of success that doesn't need a perfect setting, just courage. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts." So what kind of thoughts have you been feeding? The ones that keep you waiting or the ones that push you to take action now? The ego will keep trying to convince you that you need more, always more. But Stoicism reminds you there's already value in who you are right now as long as you live with virtue, clarity, and presence. What's within your reach today is enough to take the next step. And when you start walking with intention, something interesting happens. That craving for what's next begins to fade, because you stop chasing and start moving with purpose. But the ego won't back down so easily. It'll throw another trap your way, the promise of absolute happiness at the top. And that promise, seductive yet misleading, is exactly what we'll talk about in the next point. The culture we live in is a master at selling a seductive idea. Achieve, conquer, surpass, and then you'll be happy. But let's be honest. How many people at the top are actually at peace? How many CEOs, athletes, celebrities, who seem to have everything the world calls success, are drowning in anxiety, addiction, and loneliness? The kind of happiness that depends solely on achievement is fragile, like glass. One scratch, a layoff, a rejection, a failure, and it shatters. Stoicism offers a different path, that it's possible to live a balanced life even in the face of failure, as long as there is virtue, clarity, and courage in your heart. The ego, however, hates that idea. It wants applause, wants trophies, wants to see its name on every scoreboard. But the Stoic doesn't bow to that performance. He knows real happiness doesn't scream, it whispers. It lives in the quiet confidence of someone who acts with integrity, even when the whole world turns its back. You know that feeling of doing the right thing, even if no one noticed? That's solid happiness, a peace that doesn't rely on likes or promotions, but on the alignment between what you believe and how you live. Want a real-life example? Think of a single mom who works all day, comes home exhausted, but still finds the strength to help her child with homework. No one's going to hand her a trophy for that, but her heart knows that moment is worth gold. Or picture the employee who says no to a shady deal, even knowing it could cost them opportunities. It's those kinds of choices, made far from the spotlight, that build a truly happy life. And this isn't theory, it's daily practice. It's about beating moral procrastination and choosing what's right, even when it's easier to look the other way. Seneca once said, "It's not because things are difficult that we don't dare. It's because we don't dare that they are difficult." True happiness takes boldness. The boldness to give up easy applause for the sake of inner peace. And yes, that might look like madness to the outside world. But this same world often calls success the very things that tear families apart, destroy health, and push people into the abyss of comparison. Stoicism invites you to pause, to breathe, and to ask yourself, what am I chasing? Is it really good for me? And when that question starts to echo deeply inside you, the answer can be scary, but also freeing. Because that's when you realize that the endless chase may have cost you precious moments, genuine relationships, and even your own sense of ease. But the ego, as always, has one last card up its sleeve: comparison. And if you're not paying attention, you'll fall right into the next trap, smiling on the outside, but with a heart quietly breaking. Few things wear down the soul like the constant need to measure yourself against others. The ego doesn't just want you to succeed, it wants you to beat someone else. And before you realize it, life becomes a silent competition. Who has the fittest body, the perfect family, the most enviable job? You're not living, you're performing. With every achievement someone else makes, a voice inside you whispers, "Why haven't I done that yet?" And it's exhausting. Stoicism breaks this cycle by shifting the ruler to the right place, your own progress. The only healthy comparison is with who you were yesterday. This poison of comparison doesn't just damage self-esteem, it breaks relationships. Friends become rivals, co-workers become threats, family members become uncomfortable mirrors of what worked or failed. And the cruelest part? No one actually wins. Even those on top live in fear of falling. It's a fake peace, built on being better than. The Stoic rejects that standard. He knows that true success isn't something you flaunt, it's something you feel. And real growth is internal, silent, and ongoing. No spotlight, no competition. Think of something simple and real. Instead of comparing your body to someone's on the internet, compare your energy today to 3 months ago. Instead of blaming yourself for not hitting the same milestones as someone else, why not celebrate the books you've read, the habits you've changed, the fears you've faced? A balanced life is born from honesty with your own path. Stoicism calls us to clarity. You don't need to be the best. You need to be better. And that, in itself, is already a quiet revolution. Epictetus reminds us, if you want to be free, learn to let go of the things that don't depend on you. And guess what? Someone else's life doesn't depend on you. Their success doesn't reduce your worth. But the ego will do everything it can to make it seem that way. It'll poke at you with the edited highlights of other people's lives and conveniently leave out what didn't make the frame, the sacrifices, the backstage moments, the emptiness. Stoicism acts as a brake on this race to appear. It invites you to simply be, and to be, in a world where everyone is pretending, is an act of courage. It means accepting your own pace, your own limits, your quiet victories. It takes maturity to applaud someone else without feeling smaller. But here's the twist. Once you begin to live in peace with your own path, the ego panics. That's when it invents a new demand, that you must feel great all the time, productive, strong, shining. And that is a story for our next point. We live in a time where appearing okay has become an obligation. You're expected to be upbeat, productive, healthy, available, always. The ego has created a high-performance persona that's never allowed to fail. But that's not human. That's personal branding. And worse, the more you uphold that facade, the further you drift from your true self. Stoicism warns us about this danger. When life becomes a stage, the soul is pushed backstage. You start winning on the outside and losing on the inside. And none of that leads to real happiness. This invisible pressure to stay on, at work, online, even in your relationships, and comes with a heavy cost. Broken sleep, hidden anxiety, chronic fatigue, impatience with the ones you love. You feel like you can't stop because the world won't stop. But then a Stoic comes along and says, stop. Just like that. Stop to reflect, to breathe, to reconnect with what actually matters. Because a balanced life requires pauses. It requires silence. It even requires boredom. That state the ego hates, but the soul is thankful for. Want a practical example? Instead of spending your Sunday optimizing your productivity, how about sitting with your grandma to hear stories that won't ever make it to LinkedIn? What if you turned off your phone for 2 hours and walked aimlessly, just to feel the wind on your face? Real high performance isn't about being in turbo mode. It's about knowing how to switch between action and stillness. It's realizing that rest isn't weakness. It's preparation. Marcus Aurelius didn't win battles because he was tireless. He won because he knew when to retreat. What stands in the way becomes the way. That quote from Marcus Aurelius teaches us that even exhaustion can be a teacher. When you listen to your body and honor your limits, you're not failing. You're growing wisely. But the ego will try to tell you otherwise. It'll whisper that you're falling behind, that you're wasting time. And that's where the real danger lies. Living to please this invisible tyrant who's never satisfied. And if you don't break the cycle, life becomes a treadmill where running is exhausting but stopping feels forbidden. Stoicism, on the other hand, invites you to step off, to slow down, to remember that success without peace is just failure with applause. But of course, the ego doesn't want you to disconnect from the eyes of others. It feeds on approval. And that emotional addiction, that's exactly what we'll dive into next. If this message is already resonating with you, go ahead and hit the like button. It really helps the algorithm share this video with others who need to hear it. And if you're new here, make sure to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss what's coming next. Around here, we talk about Stoicism, balanced living, real success, and how to overcome procrastination with purpose. No quick fixes, just clarity, presence, and practical transformation. So tap that subscribe button and turn on the notifications, because this journey isn't ending here, it's just getting started. The trap is subtle but powerful. You start doing something because you believe in it, and without realizing it, you keep doing it because others expect you to. External validation is an addiction disguised as motivation. It begins with a harmless compliment and ends with your self-worth held hostage by other people's opinions. The ego thrives in this cycle. It lives for the "you're amazing," the "wow, how do you do it," the "teach me your ways." But Stoicism sounds the alarm. Anything that depends on others to sustain you can also be the thing that breaks you. When you rely on outside approval, every criticism feels like a personal attack. Every silence feels like rejection. And suddenly, your life isn't yours anymore. You start tweaking your words, your personality, your decisions, all to preserve the illusion of being accepted. The Stoic man, on the other hand, builds his foundation from within. He seeks consistency, not applause. He understands that real value comes from effort, integrity, and discipline, even when no one's watching. That's success. That's emotional freedom. Let's make this real. Think about that post you didn't share because maybe it's not good enough, or the compliment you held back because you didn't want to seem silly. These are small signs that your authenticity is being shaped by someone else's expectations. A Stoic, in that case, would post it with conviction, not out of arrogance, but out of clarity. He doesn't need 10,000 likes to validate a thought. He needs just one thing: peace with his own conscience, and that is rare, but absolutely possible. Seneca once challenged us. It's a disgrace to live in such a way that you need to hide your life. And at its core, that's what happens when you chase other people's approval. You hide your truth, your dreams, your essence. But here's a powerful secret. The more you try to please everyone, the more you lose yourself. Stoicism invites you to step out of that maze, to look in the mirror and ask, if no one ever saw this, would I still do it? And if the answer is yes, you're on the right path. If it's no, maybe it's time to reassess your motivation. Because the ego will keep whispering that you need to prove something, that you need to be seen, that you need to be remembered. But the Stoic already knows the most valuable kind of success is the one no one can see, and that's exactly what we'll explore next. Saying no to the version of success the world glorifies isn't easy. It's like swimming against a loud current that shouts constantly, "You need more." More followers, more status, more recognition. But Stoicism offers a question that changes everything. Does this more bring you closer to peace or to anxiety? Having the courage to question what everyone else accepts as absolute truth is, in itself, a sign of strength. Because living differently takes clarity, and clarity often comes before courage. When you start saying no to the ready-made standards, people react. Oh, so now you've settled? You gave up on your dreams? You're playing it safe? What most people don't understand is that there's a huge difference between giving up on a standard and choosing a new path. The Stoic doesn't reject success, he redefines it. He understands that overcoming soul-level procrastination is just as important as winning at work. That peace is a priority. That living with purpose, even in silence, matters more than collecting hollow victories. Let's bring it down to something practical. Imagine turning down a promotion that would double your salary, but cost you your health, your family, your values. The world will say you made a mistake, but when you lie in bed at night, in peace, you'll know you made the right choice. Because in this case, success wasn't climbing higher, it was staying whole. That kind of decision builds a balanced life, a life that may look odd from the outside, but rings true on the inside. Seneca once said, "The brave are free." And today, the rarest kind of freedom is not needing to prove anything to anyone, waking up and choosing what truly matters. And let's be clear, that doesn't mean living a mediocre life. On the contrary, it means living with intention, with focus, with the understanding that success isn't the loudest thing, it's the thing that holds up best in silence. Redefining that metric is an act of self-respect and also an act of boldness. Because once you free yourself from that invisible prison, a new kind of life starts to unfold. Simpler, stronger, lighter. But don't expect the ego to go quietly. It'll try to pull you back. It'll whisper that just one more trophy will fix everything. And that's when the final trap appears, the one that ends the cycle with a golden lock or invisible chains. We live in an age where every gesture has to be shown, every accomplishment celebrated, and every step turned into content. But true success doesn't scream. It doesn't show up on your feed, it doesn't go viral, and it doesn't always earn likes. Real success is built when no one's watching. It's in the self-control you show when provoked, and keeping a promise when it would have been easier to break it, in helping someone without expecting a thank you. It's subtle. It's quiet, and for that very reason, it's unshakable. Stoicism teaches us to recognize this kind of victory, the kind only your conscience gets to witness. The ego, of course, hates that idea. It wants to be seen. It wants the world to know how strong you are, how much you handle, how much you do. But the soul just wants rest. It wants authenticity. And when you learn to act with virtue without the need to broadcast it, you start experiencing a rare kind of freedom. The freedom to no longer rely on anyone else's gaze to know you're on the right path. That's when happiness begins to take root. Not in the high of recognition, but in the quiet peace of knowing you did the right thing, even in anonymity. Let's bring it down to earth. You got up early, exhausted, to take a relative to the doctor as no one saw it. You resisted a temptation no one would have known about if you'd given in. But you know. You chose to listen instead of react, to forgive instead of accuse, to stay silent instead of win an argument. None of that will show up on your timeline, but every single one of those choices is a brick in the foundation of a balanced life. And when you're surrounded by those small victories, you realize you're stronger, more grounded, more at peace. Epictetus said, "If you want to improve, be ready to look foolish." Because in a world where everything needs to be broadcast, the one who chooses silence looks out of place. But it's in that very out-of-placeness that freedom lives. The Stoic understands that the greatest achievement is living with clarity. And clarity, my friend, doesn't need a caption. It doesn't need a stage. It shows up in how you treat the people who have nothing to offer you, in how you care for what no one else values, in the good you do with no witnesses. And when you start living this way, a new challenge will arise. The pressure to return to normal, because society will insist you go back to playing the visibility game. It'll say, no one cares about silence, or success means being seen. And in that moment, you'll need courage, a lot of courage, because redefining success and choosing to live by that new definition is an act of quiet rebellion. And that's exactly where we're headed next. There's an uncomfortable truth few are willing to face. The model of success that keeps you trapped only works because you keep chasing it. It doesn't have chains, it has promises. And it's precisely because it looks so shiny that you keep surrendering day after day to a life that doesn't align with your essence. The ego tells you, keep going, you're almost there, just a little more, and you obey. But Stoicism throws out a radical invitation. What if you simply stopped running? What if you stepped out of the approval line and walked toward a life that, though simple, is deeply yours? The trap lies in the you have to. You have to earn more, you have to be recognized. You have to succeed before 30, be stable by 40, reinvent yourself by 50. But who wrote that script? And why did you accept it without question? The Stoic tears up that script and writes his own. He knows a balanced life doesn't need an audience, it needs coherence. He chooses to wake up every day with a light soul even if no one notices. And let's be real, that kind of lightness is worth more than any medal. Want a simple but powerful practice? Grab a pen and paper and write your own definition of success. But don't use numbers, titles, or job positions. Use feelings. Feeling at peace at the end of the day, having time to be with the people I love, not betraying my values for convenience. When you do this, you begin to break free from the ego's invisible grip and reconnect with what truly matters. And the beautiful part? You'll realize that much of what you were searching for out there was already within you. Marcus Aurelius said, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts." And maybe you're just one decision away from that happiness. The decision to stop torturing yourself trying to fit in. The decision to accept that a quiet, honest life may be far more powerful than a loud, empty one. The decision to finally choose a life you respect, even if no one else applauds it. And when that shift happens, everything changes. The weight lifts, the fear fades, and peace begins to bloom. Not because you conquered the world, but because you conquered yourself. And that, without a doubt, is the rarest victory, the most beautiful one, and perhaps the only one that truly matters. So tell me honestly, how many times have you chased a version of success that wasn't even yours? How many sleepless nights trying to look strong while everything inside was falling apart? The truth is, no one told you that the success you were promised was built on anxiety, pressure, and a constant fear of failure. But now you know. And from here on, a real choice stands before you. Keep trying to please a world that's never satisfied. Or start building a life you actually respect, even if it looks too simple from the outside. Are you willing to trade performance for presence, appearance for peace, comparison for clarity? Because overcoming procrastination isn't just about checking off more tasks. It's about stopping the habit of running from yourself. It's about taking ownership of your story with courage, not haste. And make no mistake, it won't be easy at first. But it doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be real. One small step taken with awareness is worth more than 1,000 empty wins on autopilot. So, what's your first step going to be? Drop a comment and tell me, what's your new definition of success? Share the trap you've fallen into the most, and which one you've decided to walk away from today. Your story could inspire someone else who's fighting the same silent battle. Around here, we're building a community of people who've chosen to wake up from the autopilot. And I want to walk this journey with you. Because growing alongside those who are seeking a balanced life, that's what makes all of this worth it. If this message resonated with you, hit subscribe and turn on the bell so you don't miss the next reflection that cuts through the noise. No empty promises here, just real talk, practical insight, and lasting transformation. And if you know someone who needs to hear this, share the video. Because sometimes, one single truth, spoken at the right moment, can set an entire life free.